Back here on the Next Panel podcast, last week talking Thor, Love, and Thunder. Today we're talking the Season 1 recap, if not the series recap. You never know if these shows are going to get renewed or not. But today we're talking Miss Marvel, just wrapping up recently on Disney+. Again, a lot of mixed reviews, but a lot of it being positive. I've seen a lot of positive thoughts on the show in general. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I wasn't sure really what to expect coming into the show. I don't know much. I don't read the comics, obviously, as we've discussed many times here on the show. You guys have far more knowledge about this than I do, and you're kind of filling in the blanks for me. But I didn't know what to expect, and I enjoyed it. I thought the lead actress, whose name escapes me right now, Iman Vellani, is that her name?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Yeah, I thought she did a great job. I thought she did a fantastic job, and where this goes from here, obviously setting up the Marvels that we already knew about, and yeah, just a very good show. I actually heard, too, on, for whatever it's worth, I think it was Rotten Tomatoes, it's actually like the highest rated MCU anything, which I found hard to believe.
98%.
98%, yeah, more than any other movie or show. It's not even just a show thing. That is crazy. So critics, whatever that demographic consists of, love the show. And like I said, I enjoyed it as well. So we'll get right into it here. Chris, you're back from the Twitter machine, BR_Dr. Chris Mueller. What's going on, man?
Oh, not much. I had fun with this show. I think it's definitely a show that was made for a very certain type of audience, but I don't think that means it's only enjoyable to them. And yeah, I was happy with how this turned out.
Yeah, we're going to get into it, but I like the fact that almost literally every single show they've done in the last year and a half, and we've gotten 6 or 7 of them at this point, I think 7? I don't remember. I got to do the math, but they've all been very different shows as far as the vibe and what they cover and just everything, really, as far as having a female lead, male lead, different races, ethnicities, everything. I think that what they've done with these shows is really cool, specifically this one, especially if you know what you're getting into when you watch the show. It was very good. So, Phil, you're back as well. Phil Lindsey from the Twitter machine, Phil DL616. What's going on, man?
I'm good. I was very excited for this show. Miss Marvel is one of the few comics that I bought from inception. I have the very first issue. So I was excited for this. And I think that they, for the most part, did a good job. What we talked about last episode about how people want things to be direct adaptations, I think some of the changes are still, I don't know. It's still, I'm still having issues with getting used to the changes to her powers, but I do think that they improved on certain things like her origin and like just her connection to her family and everything. I think that came across a lot better in the shows than it did in the books. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up too, because that seemed to be, I don't know if it was the biggest criticism, but a criticism of the show throughout this season was the changes from the comics. Again, all this stuff is completely lost on me because I'm not even really sure what her powers were to begin with, but that was something that people were talking about as far as they changed it, why did they change it, all this other sort of stuff. And I've heard various reasons as to why that was. Why do you think they did do that, Phil? Just to be different from what we were talking about in the last episode that Chris had mentioned, that they don't want to do a direct adaptation, but I'd also heard that people mention it might be too close to what they might be doing with Reed Richards in the MCU at some point. So do you know why they might have changed it? And like you said, it didn't really bother you. That seems to be the majority opinion, which is good. But any thoughts on why they could have changed it from what it was in the comics?
I don't know, because like in the comics, she's an Inhuman, and her power is she can stretch, and so she uses it to like stretch certain limbs or to grow or to shrink. And it was certain parts in the show where I felt like, boy, it would have been better if they just used her regular powers. Like, for example, they referenced Ant-Man several times in the show. They referenced it in the first episode. He's in that mural in Pakistan. And I would say she's probably a huge fan of Ant-Man. Probably her second favorite Avenger under Carol. They never made that canon here, but I felt like it was kind of like an unspoken thing throughout the show. And so I was like, boy, it would have been a big moment for her to shrink at some point, and because she can shrink in the comics.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, man, like specifically in the fight during the wedding, and she was trying to hide in between those tables and stuff. I was like, just shrink. You can do it in a comic. And so, and I mean, she does a version of her, growing bigger, and she actually uses the catchphrase "and big in the final episode, but it doesn't quite hit the same because her powers aren't the same.
Yeah, what were your thoughts on that, Chris? I know a lot of people had were two different minds at it, and Phil just summed it up perfectly. But what were your thoughts on the changes made from the comics to the show as far as that stuff goes?
I feel like because they want to put Miss Marvel and Captain Marvel and Monica all in one movie, they probably felt like they needed something slightly more cosmic related for her so she can whatever. But like, there was one thing that I was kind of confused of, and I didn't even know if it was necessarily her powers that caused it. Like, how did she and Carol switch places at the end of this? What was the deal with that?
Oh, I have a theory. So I have a theory on that. So
yeah, go ahead.
The bangle, they never really tell us what the bangle is. Like, they gave us like a backstory of, how her family came into possession of it, but they don't really tell us what it is. I think the bangle is a Negaband, and I think when they switched places, I think that Carol was coming from the negative universe, and Kamala went into the negative universe. Because that was kind of a thing that would happen in the old Captain Marvel comics.
Okay.
Do you think by any chance that the negative, what was it, the negative dimension, negative zone?
Everything is I'm getting thrown off because now it's like multiverse, it's like realm. There's a name for everything now, but I think it's the negative verse.
Negative verse. Do you think by any chance that could be what they were referring to, what they were talking about with the Nora dimension, or do you think those are two totally different things?
I think they're two totally different things.
Like you said, a lot of dimension stuff, so I get lost myself, so I'm just trying to clear it up. But yeah, no, I think that was meant to be, that was a great theory, Phil. I think they're trying to leave it open-ended for how we get to the Marvels. And I actually like the fact, we're going to jump all over the place here. I like what they did with that post-credit scene, because we got Brie Larson on the show. I thought it would have been a huge missed opportunity if they didn't get her. And they did for the post-credit scene. But they didn't have them meet. And I feel like that's what everyone expected to happen. They took it a different way. And now you can kind of have that whole, like, we're going to have to find where Miss Marvel is. That's going to be like the MacGuffin, I guess, so to speak, of the first part of that movie or whatever it's going to be. So that makes sense. So I don't know. I thought what they did there was good. I thought, the power stuff from what I know about it, I thought was well done. And I don't know. I thought I don't have a lot to say personally because I didn't read the comics, so I'm just kind of going off of it as a viewer. But I just enjoyed it, and I thought they established her character very well. And just as a viewer, I thought the stuff they did with her family was great. I absolutely adored the dad. I thought he was amazing. The whole Hulk cosplay in either episode 1 or 2 I thought was hysterical. That was great. The Avengers Con thing was cool. It kind of got a little slow a little bit in the middle with the backstory stuff, but you need that to understand the Bengal. Like you said, we don't know everything about it, but they discussed, how she has her powers and whatever, and that, and the whole, again, the time travel thing kind of threw me for a loop, because it kind of contradicts, I think, and I'll ask you guys about this now, I think it contradicts the logic of what they already said the directors had said about Endgame, with the whole, like, that was the always happen sort of thing. Like, that was always going to happen regardless. It's like a loop of time or whatever. Whereas in Endgame, if you can go back in time, you can change things and shit like that. So, can you guys talk about that a little bit as far as how that made sense? Because I was a little confused.
I don't think it changed it, because I think that from her grandmother's point of view, she thought it was her mother. But I think in the moments when Kamala uses the bangle to make the star, she figures out, oh, it was me all along.
Yeah.
Like, it nothing changed, because it was always her that helped her get on the train.
Nothing changed, but then in Endgame, though, they don't use that same, like, the loop. Like, that logic, I felt like they didn't use that same logic for time travel.
Yeah, because essentially, it's not just that it's not a loop; it's that it creates another alternate time.
Correct. Yes. So that was what confused me, because but then I had further looked into it because I was curious. The Russo brothers, and then I don't know if it was Feige or someone else. I don't remember, but someone else a part of Endgame had a different idea of, like, specifically when I talk time travel, I'm talking about the Captain America, like, not loophole, but like the fact that he was still sitting there at the end of the movie as an old guy. Like, was he always there, or did he have to come back? Like, that was never really 100% clarified. I know there's been different ideas on that, so I thought that's what contradicted here. That doesn't ruin my enjoyment of the show. I was just curious, but I thought that was interesting. But yeah, no, I thought the final episode of this show was, to me, the best part. I thought they all worked together well, and it was like one of those old Disney Channel original movie type things, but I like that about it. And if you know what you're getting to going into the show, it's not going to be low-key. It's not going to be the drama that WandaVision had. It's a coming-of-age story, doing the family thing, and her just finding who she is and her powers and stuff like that. I mean, again, for a show, for what it is, I thought they did a very good job with it. Any other thoughts on Miss Marvel specifically, Chris, that we were talking about just now?
I think the casting in this show was probably its strongest point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not only was Miss Marvel great, but her family was all cast so well. Apparently, I didn't know this. Apparently, the kid playing Bruno was also up for Spider-Man with Tom Holland.
I heard about that, yeah.
But the girl playing her best friend,
Mm-hmm.
I thought she was fantastic in every scene she was in. And I really liked how they took a little bit of time to show the positive and the relatable parts of Muslim culture, because you could tell that the people behind the scenes of this show were like, we need this to be a good representation of the side of this culture that has not been portrayed in media very much, if at all. And it didn't feel heavy-handed or forced. It just was like, that's just who she is. These are the parts of her life that are important. So I really liked that aspect of it. And I thought the guy running the mosque, like, hilarious.
Yeah. That was another really strong aspect of the show, like you mentioned, because it was very realistic, especially with how, what is it, the DCC, or what were they called again? The DOCC?
The Department of Damage Control, DODC.
DODC, okay.
Same guy from Spider-Man, by the way.
Correct. Yeah. I literally watched that first post-credit scene from that first episode. I'm like, why does that guy look familiar? Like, is he in another show or something? I'm like, oh, wait, he was from Spider-Man. I'm like, what the fuck? So, yeah, no, that was cool. And I honestly thought for a fact that they were going to reveal him, if not both, like the lead woman and him, as Skrulls, and they didn't. And I don't think they need to. But we've seen a lot of Skrull appearances. That's why I think certain people might be Skrulls, and we'll find out about that in Secret Wars, or not Secret Wars. What's the new one coming up with Nick Fury?
Secret Invasion.
Secret Invasion. There are a lot of secrets, but yeah, Secret Invasion. So I thought we might get one of those here. We did not. But yeah, no, I like the fact that, going back to what you said, like they were kind of very stereotypically like treating these Muslim people and like going in there and like, oh, they could take authority. And it's a reflection of a lot of what we see in real life with different cultures and whatever. So I'm glad they touched upon that, because...
Oh my God. The scene when the Department of Damage Control walks in and all the people who are in the mosque just hold up their IDs.
Yeah.
Like, that had to have been based on real experiences that somebody on the writing team had or something. That felt like too specific of a detail not to include, because somebody was like, hey, this is what would happen in that situation.
Exactly. And I mean, there was even a line in there too where they were like, someone in the mosque was like, well, how do you know that this person that you're after is Muslim? Like, they immediately were drawn, like, it has to be someone Muslim. Like, all right, but why is that, though? And I forgot the reason why they talked about it or whatever. But, again, it's a lot of stuff that happens in reality. So, again, for a quote-unquote kid show, they cover a lot of serious stuff and a lot of realistic issues. And I thought they did a great job with it. We learned a lot about different cultures. Specifically, it goes back to the conversation that we had in during our Thor Love and Thunder review when Phil, you were talking about Phase 4, we learned a lot about in Shang-Chi, his culture and stuff like that. And now we kind of learned the other side of the coin as well here. I thought that was very well done. Any thoughts on that, Phil?
Yeah, I thought the way that they not just normalize Muslim culture here in America, but then went out of their way to, tell the history of Pakistan and why, those people being displaced was such a traumatic incident. I thought the way that they handled that was very good. I thought the way they handled all this stuff with Kamala in Pakistan in particular was very good. All the way to the point that I wish it was a longer series so that we got more episodes of her in Pakistan. But I mean, that's part of my gripe with the entire show, is I feel like it needed to be more than 6 episodes. But I feel like all of the cultural stuff they did was very good. Like, again, just some of the changes they made her origin, like making her symbol the first letter of her name in Arabic was a very nice touch. I think stuff like her dad coming up with the name and her mother making the suit is all specifically for the show. That didn't happen in the comics. And I think those are good adjustments.
Bit of a broader question, but going back to what you said about it could have been, more episodes and whatnot. Maybe not a movie, but I think this worked well as a show on Disney Plus specifically. But I've seen this question brought up before by other people. Listen, as someone that likes organization, I like the fact, all right, I know every show is going to be 6 episodes. I think the only one that wasn't, or 2 that weren't, was What If and WandaVision. Those were the only 2 shows that weren't 6. Hawkeye was, Loki was, Falcon and the Winter Soldier was, this one was, Moon Knight, so on and so forth. They've all been 6 episodes. So I like to know what I'm getting. But putting that aside, though, I think it might make more sense to not have seasons. It's like, all right, we're going to do they have to be limited to 6 episodes. And I think they did a good job with this in specifically The Mandalorian.
I think it was 8. And I think the second season might have been 7.
Oh, yeah. So they were different. They were different in Book of Boba Fett I think the second season had more, I thought. I think the second season had 10, but I could be wrong. I thought Book of Boba Fett had 7, but they were basically the same show anyway. But my point being is that they weren't all the same amount of episodes. And I think that Disney, or rather Marvel, can learn from that. Maybe it is a Disney thing, I don't know. But I think, because Obi-Wan Kenobi was only 6 episodes too, I don't think all these shows need to be exactly 6 episodes. It's probably the formula that works when you look at the story arcing chart. All right, you have the exposition, you have the grand finale, the episode 4 or 5 is where we really heat things up. A lot of these formulas have become formulaic with the shows because we've seen so many of them in the last year and a half. But I just don't think every show has to be 6. Do you think, Phil, that this could have benefited from being an 8 or a 10-part show with more, emphasis on the background and the history of Pakistan and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think it would have definitely worked better if it was maybe 8 episodes or possibly 10. Because I feel like by the time she gets back from Pakistan, and they've done so much world building and so much stuff with her origin. And I feel like the villains take such a backseat for most of the show. And even how it kind of rushed into the last episode with stuff with Kamran, it was like, all right. It just felt like, all right, well, let's just get this over with at this point because the show's over. It's like, let's just rush into the climax and move on into introducing the themes for the next Miss Marvel movie, or Captain Marvel movie.
Yeah, the Marvels, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, even some of the stuff with the bangle, I think if they settled on more stuff with it, and there's so much cool stuff that they did hint at with the bangle, and that's why I really think it's a negative. It just occurred to me, it's the negative zone.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Universe, the negative zone, because that's where Annihilus lives. But yeah, I'm assuming that this was essentially made to be kind of a long prologue for the Marvel show. I mean, the Marvels movie. And in that way it works, but as a Miss Marvel show, it just should have been longer.
I agree.
I was going to say, Chris, would you have more episodes or make it a movie, or do you think it was perfect the way it was?
No, I think an 8-episode series would have been, I think 2 more episodes in the middle would have been great.
Yep.
And I totally agree with what Phil said. The villains definitely took a back seat in this. They didn't feel nearly as important as they have in some other shows. Like in Moon Knight, the villain was so crucial to the story. And in this, they felt almost inconsequential to her journey, but that's because her journey was multifaceted, I guess. And then in the end, it's almost the Department of Damage Control who ended up being the biggest villains that she had to deal with. That's the big fight in the school was against them, not.
Yeah,
so
they were doing some hinting with Kamran, but I think if you didn't read the comics and you don't realize that Kamran was a villain in the comics, that you're not going to sit there and think all right, well, this is leading to them having some showdown in the last episode. Because that's what I kept thinking the whole time, that Kamran was going to turn on her in the last episode.
Yeah,
that's what I was expecting.
I actually really liked. There was the one little bit where he was looking for help from Bruno, and Bruno was like, "Fine, I'll help you." And then he's like, "Oh my God, I legitimately thought your name was Brian this whole time."
Yeah.
That popped me a little bit because the whole show, Bruno's complaining he knows my name is Bruno. He's doing it on purpose, and then you find out that he legitimately feels bad that he was screwing it up the whole time.
Yeah.
It's such a good little nugget in there because I assume most Muslim men and women, people mispronounce their name all the time, and they just don't correct them.
Oh, yeah. It's a good point.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, there's a really prominent example of that. I don't know if she's necessarily Muslim, but that streamer Pokimane, like, people have just been pronouncing that wrong the whole time. That's supposed to be a play on her word, which her name, which is Aman. So technically, it should be pronounced Pokemon, just like it's an actual thing. But because she spelled it with the way her name is spelled, everybody's like, "Oh, she's Pokimane," and she's like, "I'm just gonna stop. I'm just gonna stop correcting people after a while."
Yeah, so, like Mustafa.
Yeah,
oh my
exactly.
God, yeah. And what's funny was when they first started pronouncing it the proper way, there was a lot of people online who were like, "Why are you changing it? You're doing that on purpose. Just go back to calling it." It's like, no, they're finally actually doing it the way that it's supposed to be.
Yeah,
be
that
quiet.
was funny. I remember that. People were like, "Oh, it's the latest name change." Like, no, he wanted this, and this is what it should have been the whole time. So save your complaints. I get it. They change a lot of shit. But
remember when they tried to just change him to Ali, and I was like, "Oh no, don't do that."
Yeah, that was like 6 months. I think that allowed. It did not last long at all. He was not happy about that, and he's obviously very outspoken as he should be. And I'm glad he said something. They gave him his first. People don't get their first names back more often than not, but he did, which was great. But
yeah, now if they would just actually do something with him.
Yeah, now he's just on. They put him back on Raw for 6 weeks, and I think they felt that was enough. So
Had him lose in his hometown.
Yeah, exactly.
We're gonna use you to put over Miz in Theory.
Back to main event with you. It's so dumb. But anyway, back to the show. Very much enjoyed it. I thought there was something else I was going to mention, but we might as well get into the big thing here that they revealed at the. Oh, well, two things. You mentioned Bruno. I like the fact that, because I've talked about this before, I've commonly complained about how a lot of these movies and shows always end with the love interest getting together, whatever. We didn't get that here. We didn't get Bruno and Miss Marvel falling in love with each other, right off the bat. Like, they're building to that. I don't know if we'll get it in the next movie or if we have a second season or something.
Yeah, they're teenagers in high school. Give them time.
Exactly. Give them time, and I like that a lot. But also, obviously, the big thing that got people talking at the end of the series was the fact that she is indeed a mutant. They mentioned mutation, and then I'm not familiar with the show, but from what I had seen people mention online, that they played as they did in Doctor Strange, the X-Men cartoons theme from many, many years ago.
Wait, whoa. You're not familiar with the 90s X-Men cartoon?
I'm not. Other than what people have said in the last year since I first heard about it, I am not familiar with it at all. I'm on it.
You've never seen a single episode of it?
I don't.
It's on Disney Plus, man.
It is now. Are they doing more episodes of that? Isn't that what they're doing now?
Yeah.
That's cool. I'll have to watch it. I'll have to definitely check it. I know I'm not familiar with it.
It's a great show, but that theme song is definitely iconic.
Yeah, I wish I had known that going into Doctor Strange, because I would have thought that was. I think it's cool now, but I would have. It would have been one of those things that would have meant more to me at the time had I known that. Same thing with this here. I had no idea until someone brought it. I'm like, I'm so fucking dumb, but that was cool. So that was the bomb they dropped at the end of the episode here was that. And
my God. And the irony of that is hilarious too, because when Marvel was like, we don't own the X-Men, we're going to try and make the Inhumans our X-Men. And now they're turning an Inhuman character into a mutant because they don't want to touch the Inhumans again after that show failed so badly. Yeah. It's just really funny to me how all that worked out.
It almost makes me wonder, was Kamala always supposed to be a mutant? Because I think the company-wide edict thing at one point was, don't make any new characters into mutants or anything else. Just make them Inhumans. That way, Fox won't get the rights to them.
That is exactly the case, yeah. So I had seen some interview, I guess, I don't know the person who wrote the comic or whatever. I had heard about this the other day, that you are exactly right, Phil. I don't know if this was a new interview or an interview from a while ago. They said that the plan was always to have her be a mutant, but they couldn't do that due to what Chris just mentioned. So you're 100% correct. Yeah.
So correct me if I'm wrong. In the comics, I know Captain Marvel deals with Lockjaw quite a bit. Does Miss Marvel?
Yeah, in the comic, her origin is linked straight to the Inhumans.
Right, but are there does she have a relationship with Lockjaw specifically? Yeah. Do you know?
Yeah,
man, I would have loved a Lockjaw cameo in this, because that was one of the only good things about that Inhumans show.
Yeah, no, there are several comic panels of her using Lockjaw or like having a connection to Lockjaw. So,
yeah, Phil, did you watch the Inhumans show at all, Phil?
I did not. That's not
What about
a
you,
single episode.
I haven't seen it, but I know Black Bolt's from it, and obviously he was in Doctor Strange. And I heard they might be bringing that actor back as Black Bolt. Is it for them? I heard something that he might be in the Marvels. Maybe that was a part of the leak I had read that might happen. I don't know if that's true, but
That would be interesting. Anson Mount is a good actor, and I know a lot of people love him in these new Star Trek shows, but Lockjaw is like a giant teleporting dog who's technically also an Inhuman.
well, that's pretty cool.
And yeah, and in the TV show, it looks ridiculous because it's a giant CGI dog on a TV show
on
budget.
ABC or whatever, right? Yeah.
But it was like one of the only parts of the show that people liked, and then they like ran out of money, so they couldn't even use the dog half the time in the show. So like, he literally spends like 4 episodes locked in a barn.
Oh my god.
Oh god.
It's so stupid.
That's so dumb.
Yeah,
That Human show is such a disaster.
Yeah, thinking about it, it would have been nice to see Lockjaw again. But I mean, there are certain things that because I read the comic, that are just so linked to her being an Inhuman, like the incident where she gets her powers from the Terrigen Mist, or a big part of her origin with the stretching is that she didn't know how to accept her powers because it made her awkward, and not being able to use that in a show, I feel like is kind of weird. But again, I think they also did other good things, so it didn't bother me that much. I think one of the really cool things they did, I think it's the first episode when she puts on the Carol cosplay, and she was uncomfortable because the jacket didn't go down low enough, and she had to put the scarf over it, and it really felt like she was trying to fit in and conform in that. And by the time she gets her own suit and her mom makes her own suit, she's proud of how she looks in the mirror. Just those small things are really good touches.
Yeah, I also really like that they went out of their way to get like what would be kind of classified as an average sized girl. Like, she's not super skinny or muscular. Like, she's just a teenage girl, and she has a teenage girl's body. Like, it was a very body positive thing for them to do. But I actually thought that just her as an actress was fantastic. One of the things we didn't talk about yet is the art style in the show, and
Very
I felt
cool.
like the first few episodes there was all this stuff about like her imagination and the art in the background on the street and the grass, and it was all great, and it felt like they threw that away for a couple episodes, and then we get to see a little taste of it at the end with the chalkboard scene, and I think that was one of those things that they could have done more with, because it gave the first few episodes a really unique feel. Like when she comes home from the party and Kamran has just given her his phone number, and she's like dancing, and in her own mind she's dancing to this music, but like then it flashes to reality for a minute when her parents are like, "Are you okay?" and she's like, "I'm fine," and then she just starts dancing again, and the music starts up. And I thought that was a really creative, fun little way to show what was going on inside her head, and then we didn't get that for a couple episodes, so I was a little disappointed with that.
Boy, let me tell you, I laughed very loud at her coming in the second episode to Mace Feel So Good. Hilarious.
Yeah.
But
I remember you even commented on that on Twitter, didn't you?
Yeah, that was really, really funny. But I feel like that was a conscious decision to have her being in her head for 3 episodes until she like actually had to have powers and be a superhero. And then you saw less of it because she had to be in the moment.
Yeah, true.
But I do really like the art style of the show. I mean, I think the end credits look great. I think the opening credits where the opening logo changes every episode was good. All the little Easter eggs they threw into the opening credits every time was cool too.
Yeah, I actually was surprised that there weren't many Spider-Man references, because she's like in the same city, might know some of the same people.
Well, she's in Jersey, right? He's in Brooklyn?
Oh, yeah, okay. But they're in the same like region.
Yeah,
like,
she's not in California.
I just thought I just thought there was a good chance that maybe one of the smart kids from Spider-Man might show up as like a college recruiter, like just something stupid. And the fact that they resisted that was surprising.
I think they resisted it because she is good friends with Miles in the comic, and like the connection they had where another school came and did science projects at her school. One of the kids was Miles, so I think that they did that intentionally.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. But yeah, this show, like, even though it is connected to the overall MCU and there's lots of references to other characters, it also felt like they went out of their way to be like, we need to focus on these people, so let's just not bring in anyone from all these other properties. Let's not give her a mentor that already has powers, and let's just have her figuring out things as they go. And I think that was a much stronger arc, because the first fight scene that she's in, she's so incompetent and is like practically escaping by luck. And then by the end of the movie, you're getting to see her like using her powers adequately and in a smart way. I just thought that was actually a really well done arc, with her kind of discovering how to use these things and then getting better at them slowly.
Yeah. That's what going off what we were talking about earlier with the powers. Do you guys think that some of the stuff that you guys mentioned, maybe like the stretchy arms and the shrinking, do you think we might still see that at some point, and that she's not completely developed yet until we get to see her in the next movie or whatever else?
I doubt it. I think this is what we get.
Because I think it was Feige that just put out like a quote where he was saying her powers are still evolving, and she is a mutant. With them saying she's a mutant, the bangle is just like playing off of, I'm assuming, what will be her latent mutation. Mm-hmm. So we haven't seen what her mutation actually is. So I'm assuming like her mutant power will be the stretching. And the bangle is just something else. Like I said, I'm assuming the bangle is the neckband. But yeah, I agree. I think them not going out of their way to have her mentor be an established superhero like Peter, I think that was very intentional as well. To have all of her mentors be Muslim as well, or be from Pakistan, I thought was a great touch. I think for her to seek advice at a mosque is also a very powerful thing. For her to get her best advice from, I don't want to mispronounce the guy's name. I think the head of the mosque. I cannot think of his name in the show, but I think he gave her the best advice the entire show, and to even go back and again have those connections to her parents, and her grandmother's name is Aisha.
Yes, Aisha. Yep.
To go back to that, I feel like to have all of that be her lineage and that to be her origin story is very important.
Yeah, I think they did a great job, like we mentioned, of covering all of that, and maybe we find out more that we didn't get in the show, in the movie at some point. But to kind of go back to the movie thing for a second, they said that she'll be back in the Marvels, which we knew, but I'd have to look again. A lot of this stuff can just be quickly answered with a quick Google search on my end. But are we getting the Marvels first? Do you guys know, or is it going to be Captain Marvel 2, or are those the same movie?
Well, Captain Marvel 2 is the Marvels, basically.
Okay. So it's called.
It's just gonna be a 3-person thing. It won't just focus on her. It'll be Monica, Miss Marvel, and Captain Marvel.
Gotcha. I wasn't sure if it was going to be 2 separate things, and then Captain Marvel 2 might, follow her in the past, because that took place in 95. So I wasn't sure.
Phil, is Sheik Abdullah.
There you go.
Yeah. So I wasn't sure, but I guess now we know, and now we're gonna get the 3 of them in the next movie in the Marvels, whenever that's going to be coming out. But there's a lot of things about this show that I thought was well done, and there wasn't a lot of crossover either. I mean, there really wasn't any major appearances. I mean, we had Captain Marvel at the end. She mentions a lot of the Avengers and stuff like that. And to kind of go back to what you said about the main actress, Chris, I think what's cool is that what I found out is that she has, unless I'm wrong, but I don't think she has any prior acting credits at all. Like, this is like her first role doing anything, and she did a great job of it. Not only that, is that she's also a massive Marvel fan, and she's actually gone on in interviews talking about, reference Phil's Twitter username, talking about the 616 and how it's should be the same thing as the comics, but it's not, and the whole 818 stuff and whatever else. But She's super passionate about that, which is really funny, and she will not shy away from sharing her thoughts on that. But yeah, I thought she did a great job.
Did you guys see that story where she actually got reprimanded during the filming for Miss Marvel because she was watching WandaVision on her phone?
By Feige specifically, right? I heard or did he say it? I forgot, but yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, it was hilarious. I was like, she is literally the character. Like, they cast Kamala with a different name.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, all of that stuff is great. I think that exchange where she was saying that, because she wanted the movie universe to be, I forgot the designation of like 1922 or something like that. And she actually, somebody asked her, did she bring that up to Feige? And she said she saw Feige somewhere, and he said, "No, it's 616," and that's it. That was
Yeah.
just kind of
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah, because in the comics, the movie universe is referred to as 19999.
Correct.
I think it's one followed by 4 nines, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, but I think all of the stuff about her outside of the character makes me like the casting even more. I think she's perfect.
Yeah. Did you guys watch the little thing that they put up on Disney Plus with all the the behind the scenes stuff and interviews? I don't remember what the series is called, but they've done one after like every one of these Marvel series.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. I haven't seen it yet, but I know what you're talking about though. Yeah.
Yeah, that gives a lot of that detail that you guys were just talking about. Like, she is a hardcore Miss Marvel fan and nerd, and like the fact that she got cast was probably the biggest thing in the world for her. You know, it's really cool that they're going out of their way to like not only be accurate but get people who actually want to be part of this now too.
Yeah. Yeah, we're at a point now where she literally grew up on like Avengers 1. Like, I don't know how old she is exactly, probably 16, 17, but when that movie came out, she was 6 years old, so she literally grew up on Phase 1, which is wild to say.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and plus, if you think about it, she wouldn't have even been alive when Iron Man 1 happened because the Marvel timeline is ahead of where we are in real life.
That's true in the movies, yeah. I don't even...
So if she's 16 and it's still 2025, I don't know if they specified in this. I never really bothered to look, but if it's supposed to be 2025 in this show, she would have been born the year after the events of Iron Man.
That's correct, yeah. That's crazy. That's how long the MCU's been going on for, but yeah.
Damn young people.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was a funny thing that I noticed while watching Thor as well. When Jane was like, "Yeah, it's been 3 years," and he was like, "No, it's been 8," and I was like, "It's been 8 for him because of a snap."
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And he specifically knew the exact amount of days, which was funny. But yeah, no, it affects everyone, and I don't think I don't think Kamala was blipped away. I think we would have known about that if she was. But yeah, no, just between her kind of being a big fangirl, whatever, for the Avengers, as was, Kate Bishop and Hawkeye, and we talked about it at the end of the Thor Love and Thunder stuff, but the Young Avengers is coming along nicely. Do you think that might be, because we talked about San Diego Comic-Con, do you guys think that might be the next big team-up movie? Not an Avengers team-up movie, but rather a Young Avengers team-up movie of some sort?
Probably.
I can see it. I really think whenever we get the next big crossover event, it's not going to be so much just like all of these characters coming together. It's going to be all of these teams coming together. So it's going to be whatever, like the team with U.S. Agent and like the Dark Avengers, quote unquote, the Young Avengers, maybe like some of the OG Avengers, and they're all going to come together to face whatever the threat is.
Yeah, that would seem to
probably Kang.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, since he's already been established. I'm surprised we haven't seen Kang in anything else since the end of Loki. I know they like to keep him...
I'm pretty sure they said Ant-Man would be the next place we see
Yes,
him.
Yeah, they did announce him for that, but I'm thinking just before then, because that's not out until next year. And there's been so much stuff. I'm not even saying he needs to be in anything. I'm not saying that at all, but it is interesting, because he is kind of like in charge of all the universes and shit, and I thought he might appear and make a quick cameo in Doctor Strange, which didn't happen, but, it's not like Thanos was in every movie before they ultimately built to Infinity War. He was in Actually, he was in 3 movies, actually. He was in Guardians as well, the first one, so...
yeah, but it's like you can almost barely even count 2 of his appearances because they were literally 5-second post-credit things.
Yeah, they weren't even in the movies themselves. You're right. So we'll see. But, yeah, that was Miss Marvel in a nutshell, and I thoroughly enjoyed the show. Any final thoughts, Chris?
Not really. I think we covered everything. Like, it's definitely a show that was not made for everybody. Like, if you're super into the hardcore superhero stuff, or you like it really dark, this isn't going to be for you. But I thought it worked really well as a coming of age story, probably as effectively as the first Spider-Man with Tom Holland. And I actually had a very similar, like, it had a similar feel kind of to that first movie, in terms of we got a lot of focus on the actual teenager, not just the superhero.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus the end credits, like, both of them are different, but both of them have a very similar feel to me. Like, it's hard to really explain, but I feel like whoever made the end credits for the first Spider-Man movie might have been involved with this one too.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wouldn't be surprised. Any final thoughts, Phil, on Miss Marvel?
Yeah, I think it's going to be probably one of the most important projects that Marvel has done in terms of introducing diversity. And I do think in some ways they tried to make this show as possible, just to let people know that, Muslims are normal people just like anybody else. And I think, not just bringing us inside their family, but bringing us inside what it's like for her at school, what it's like for her at mosque, and all these other things. I think it's going to go a long way for other projects like this outside of Marvel Universe.
I also liked that his brother was marrying a woman who clearly wasn't born Muslim, but she was kind of like basically converting for him. And the combined wedding was a really sweet scene. Like, you see her parents like get up and start doing the dance, and you're like, oh, they actually like took the time to learn this dance for their daughter's wedding. That's like this complicated Bollywood kind of number, and they're not even like related to any of that. Like, it was I thought that was a really great scene. That it's not one I saw really anybody talking about, and it was one of the scenes that I actually enjoyed the most. Like, it was just kind of fun to watch all that stuff happening.
Yeah, that and
the wedding was great.
Yeah, the wedding was one of the best parts of the entire show. And even on a bigger scale than that, I thought they did a great job with the music in every episode. The closing scene throughout the entire episode, for each episode, I thought the music, the score for the show was obviously unique compared to every other show we've got for the obvious Muslim culture reasons. But it was very, very well done, and I thought it was just genuinely great music. And I thought it was, especially since they learned the dance number, not just the parents, but everyone that partook in that thing for that one specific scene. Like, they didn't have to do that, but they did it anyway, and it was great. It honestly added a lot to that scene, and
also,
and the culture and everything.
They have got a great idea with the whole "we're gonna sit down during the wedding" thing. Like,
yeah, like, it just makes more sense.
The husband, wife, and the sheik are all sitting down, and so are the parents next to them. It's like, oh god, that would have been so much more comfortable. My brother had a traditional Catholic ceremony, so we were standing for like an hour and sitting down for a minute, and then standing, and then sitting, and then standing, and then sitting, and it's like, all right, let's just do one or the other, guys. Come on.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing while watching that. I'm like, that just honestly makes a lot more sense. But yeah, no, I learned a lot from this show as far as that. Even
the brother, we didn't talk about the brother at all. He was funny. He was legitimate.
Perfect casting for him as well.
Yeah, the brother was great.
Really enjoyed him. All of the stuff with him and his wife are right out of the comic as well. His wife is black as well in the comic. His fears about being married and not being able to, provide is also straight from the comics. I think all of the subtext that they did take from the comics was used very well here. The subtext of her brother marrying someone that's black, and there's clearly like this like unspoken romance between her and Bruno, and the fact that her family is very like good friends with Bruno, like they're very inviting him in, but at the same time, like he like likes her. It's all interesting.
Yeah, there was a nice little love triangle going on there between Bruno and Cameron and the other guy as well, whose name escapes me right now.
Of course, because man, the thing there is, and this is possibly also because I've known several Muslim people. I actually dated someone else Muslim. It's like for most Muslims from overseas, they expect you to end up with someone of your own ethnicity.
Mm-hmm.
And so I assume, like, of course, they want her to end up with a Pakistani Muslim boy. So Kamran is perfect for her in some ways, and Bruno's probably looking at it from afar like, but don't be with her.
Yeah, well,
don't be with
I
him.
know. Even
And
though
so,
the family loves Bruno. Like,
exactly.
right, and then at the same way, like they probably wouldn't trust Kamran. I mean, her brother straight away didn't trust him. So yeah, I think that subtext of her fawning over Kamran because he's essentially who she's supposed to be with, and then in the comic him ending up being a bad guy, and then in the show him ending up being kind of a flawed, tragic character as well. It's just really good subtext.
Yeah. I thought he was great, and him kind of looking on from afar, especially when he walked in on them about the kiss and all this other stuff, and that didn't happen. And like I said, the fact that they didn't give it away here was nice, because like you said, Chris, they're just teenagers, and they can build that in the movie. And he was just upset that no one was talking about Bruno, to make an Encanto joke, which was really stupid. But I thought it was a very good show overall. I enjoyed it, and I don't know where we go from here. I don't even know I do know what's next. She-Hulk is coming out in a couple of weeks. It's coming out in early August. I'm thinking, like, what's the next movie? I know, obviously, Black Panther 2 Wakanda Forever comes out in November. By the time this podcast is released, we will find out what's coming out as far as the movies and the casting from San Diego Comic-Con, so we'll talk about that next time. But, this has been great, guys. I look forward to She-Hulk. I think that's out in just a few short weeks, right? I think in the early August.
She-Hulk comes out August 17th, and that'll be 9 episodes, but I believe they'll be somewhat shorter, more like how WandaVision, they were more like 25.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
I think they're 30-minute episodes.
Okay.
Because they're going for more of like a sitcom feel. Like, the show is going to be funny.
No, okay, interesting. I like how they kind of divvied up and make
also,
it different.
I'm looking at this here. There's an Untitled Halloween special on the schedule that I didn't know about.
Did not know that.
That's supposed to come out in October, like before the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special in December.
No, so it must be something totally different, yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea what that's supposed to be about. There's like very little details here.
I'll probably find out soon.
It looks like it might have something to do with Werewolf by Night.
Interesting.
Makes sense for Halloween, right?
It's going to be interesting to see what they do with that. By the way, the other kid that I liked in the show, the kid that they picked for Kareem from the Red Dagger, I thought he was great as well.
Oh yeah.
Oh, right. Yes, I was thinking of his name.
That's another reason why there should have been 2 more episodes. All that stuff with like this whole little secret society was sort of just like introduced and then brushed off.
I mean, they nodded to so many things with the bands. The fact that they showed the 10 rings in the background in that one episode, and kind of hinted that the other band is the 10 rings.
Really? Okay.
Because remember when they went in that temple and they were like, there are 2 bangles, and they only found one.
Yeah.
And the 10 rings were on the ground. I was like, so are they saying the 10 rings are the other bangle?
Maybe. But the 10 rings we already know are not from Earth. So I wonder if they're also implying the bangle's not, and that's why her powers are maybe slightly more cosmic.
Yeah, I assume because I'm assuming it's a negative band. I assume that they were hinting heavily that they're both from Kree, because the arm that they took it off of was blue, and the Kree are blue.
Oh, that's a good point.
I had seen someone say that you think they'll probably explain that in the Marvels, right? With Captain Marvel's relation to the Kree and whatever.
Yeah,
maybe. So maybe she ended up transporting to Hala and traded places with Captain Marvel there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm assuming it's the negative verse, and it's also that. I mean, it also is me hoping they're introducing the negative zone so that we can get an Annihilus movie.
I mean, that's one of those things I think, like, that could almost be a Phase 5 thing, because they already are doing so much with, like, all the multiverse stuff. Introducing the negative zone right now might be too much for some people. Yeah, especially because we also have, like, the dark dimension that we're dealing with in Doctor Strange.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to introduce the negative zone in some way, because it's such a big part of both Captain Marvel stuff and Fantastic Four, so there's no way they don't use it at some point.
Yeah, probably. In fact, maybe the Fantastic Four movie is where it gets introduced.
Yeah.
I just hope they don't recreate the scene from the last Fantastic Four movie of how they got their powers, where a bunch of smart scientists just stick their hands in this alien goo. Idiots.
Oh, God. Well, we still have the Fantastic Four to look forward to as well. I don't know when that... Well, like I said, by the time this is out, we'll probably have a better idea of what the future holds for Fantastic Four, as far as their casting, when it's coming out. Because it's been years since they, acquired the rights to Fox, and they've had that stuff for a while. And I'm glad they didn't rush into it, but, I think people are starting to get anxious. When are we going to find out more about it? And obviously, we know that the X-Men are coming because we had the mutant drop on this episode, or on this show, so... Wasn't expecting.
You got to give Daniel Radcliffe a few years to get those muscles going.
Yeah,
good old Harry Potter.
But yeah, if the 10 rings are connected and they are the negabands, if the signal is from the Shang-Chi end credits that signal is calling a nihilist, I would be here for that.
One of the things I had heard, and I don't know if this is supposed to be official or not, but like apparently the 10 rings, because in the comics they're just rings, and in this they were almost bracelets, but somebody said like that's because they were rings that were designed for a dragon.
Right, because the rings in the comics are tied to Fin Fang Fu.
And the Marvel universe, we're only seeing kind of one connected set of powers between all the rings, at least so far.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The rings are very different in the comics as well.
Yeah. So it would be interesting if they tied those two together, and then if somebody ends up with both the bangle and the 10 rings, like what kind of powers will they have then?
Mm-hmm. I'm sure that's going to be the main goal of Miss Marvel, right? Is kind of explaining that and what the end game is when you have both bangles.
I mean, we might get that in the Marvels, but I get the feeling that that's going to focus on something completely different.
I mean, probably more than we even know of now. There's so much more that can happen between now and the movie, as far as casting and what else can happen.
What's going to be interesting is, so it seems like Monica has a very complicated relationship with Captain Marvel now, and we're going to be looking at Miss Marvel being a fangirl over her. So that's going to be kind of an interesting dynamic with all three of them, because Monica is going to look at Carol one way, but Miss Marvel is going to be fangirling out, and Monica is going to be kind of like maybe a little mad at her, like it seems. And so just to see how Miss Marvel and Monica interact, both having such different views of Carol, is going to be interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's going to be a great dynamic for them to explore in that movie. And we got a lot of great Monica content on WandaVision, so seeing her back is going to be cool too, when that inevitably comes out at some point in the next couple of years. So, like I said, any more final thoughts on Miss Marvel before we wind off here?
Nah, I think if we're going back into the people's complaint about Phase 4 issue, if there's been any overarching theme of Phase 4, I mean, it's been grief, of course. Grief has been a big overarching theme, but they've set up a lot of legacy characters. They've set up legacy characters in almost every show or movie so far.
They've done a lot more, They've done a lot of fantastic work as far as setting stuff up for the future. And I mean, I just to kind of go full circle to what you said, Phil, from earlier when we were talking Thor: Love and Thunder with the Phase 4 complaints. I don't know. I mean, everything is subjective. You think it's crap, that's fine. I just don't see it personally with so much good content. I mean, how much is there really to complain about?
Yeah, if you don't like one thing, you'll probably like the next thing. Like it's been a nice mix of different, not genres necessarily, because this is all technically part of the same thing, but Doctor Strange had a little bit of a horror thing going on. Moon Knight was much more mystical, and Miss Marvel is just very different from both of those things. So I like Phase 4 so far for the most part. I definitely have things that I don't like in specific properties, but the whole Phase 4 as one thing, I think is very strong, probably stronger than Phase 2.
Yeah, for sure.
I would honestly say that Phase 4 is better than Phase 1, and I think people are looking back on Phase 1 with rose-colored glasses. I don't think they remember all the movies that are actually in Phase 1.
I mean, the Hulk movie is sort of like tangentially in or out, depending on who you talk to, but Yeah, I mean, I know I like the first Thor movie, but not everybody does. But Iron Man 2 is a very kind of mixed review movie as well. And then Cap 1, there's some people that just don't like it, even though I love it. So
Yeah.
Phase 1, even though I love it, yeah, you're right, Phil. Like, there are people who are looking back on it nostalgically, and it's because we're like 15 years removed from it now.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody didn't like a lot of those Phase 1 movies. The fact that people were acting like they liked all of those Phase 1 movies is that's just not true.
Yeah.
And I liked most of them, but to act like people, like they were all perfect, like they were still figuring it out during Phase.
Right. I just don't like the revisionist history of, oh, maybe the first Avengers wasn't as good as we thought. That's the other viewpoint
That's
that
stupid,
I don't like.
yeah. That's
It's like, all
stupid.
right, just because nobody likes Joss Whedon anymore doesn't mean we have to go back and trash the first Avengers movie. That movie's great.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've seen people doing that as well. I've seen people say, can we admit now that the first two Avengers movies were bad? And I'm like, no, there is no bad Avengers movie.
No, like, even if you think Age of Ultron is the weakest, there's still a lot of great things in that movie.
Yeah, exactly.
James Spader alone as Ultron was a fantastic performance.
Yeah. Yeah, there's. I think we're officially now at the half. I think that part of the reason why this conversation may have started among people not liking Phase 4 was because two things. One, Thor just came out, and there was a lot of mixed reviews for that. And two, because I think now, if I'm not mistaken, we're officially the halfway point of stuff coming out in Phase 4. That might be wrong because we've only been in Phase 4 technically for like a year and a half, but we've gotten so much content. It depends how many more movies they have coming out. They might be slowing down soon. I mean, we're speaking in July right now. As far as movies, we only have Black Panther coming out in November, I think. So we've already had 2 movies already in 2022.
Yeah.
Two shows.
Technically, the Guardians holiday special, I don't know how long that's supposed to be. That might count as a movie, but it may also just be an hour-long thing. I really don't know.
I assume that's like a TV movie type thing, you know.
Yeah.
That won't have much, effect on most things, but it'll be entertaining, and I'm sure we'll be talking about that as well. So I look forward to that. The next thing we probably will review is that. I know Andor's out around that time as well. If you guys watch that, I know I'll be tuning in. I'm kind of on a Star Wars high right now, still coming off of Kenobi, which I loved about a month ago.
Yeah,
So
I have hopes for Andor because, like,
Rogue One was great.
and that's a character that I didn't ever really think needed anything else. So I'm really hoping that they do something interesting in addition to just having Cassie and Andor as the lead. Like, something else in that show needs to, and I really hope we get Reva again in that.
That would be great. I'm sure there's more to the show than what we know right now. I think either as it gets closer or in the actual show, like going into Mandalorian, no one knew that we're going to get a friggin' baby Yoda in there until the first episode dropped, which was incredible. So, like, I feel like it might be a case like that.
Right. Let alone Boba Fett. Like, that was sort of a rumor before it became a reality.
Yeah, exactly. So, a lot of different ways that then go with all these various things, and I look forward to breaking it down with you guys right here on the show, probably in the next couple of weeks, specifically She-Hulk. We probably obviously won't break it down until after it's over, so it might be a while, but I look forward to it nonetheless. But Chris, you're on the Twitter machine, BR_Doctor. Phil, you're on Twitter, PhilDL616. Thanks a lot, guys, as always, and I'll catch you on the next one.